Hi there. Today I was able to perform an interview with a police officer in Pickens. Unfortunately, he didn't really feel comfortable being recorded during the interview, so I instead wrote down some of his answers, and I'm going to kind of summarize what he talked about about the Pickens Police Department, and it's a good example of rural policing. The man I interviewed name is Sergeant Blair. He's spent 3 years on the force in Pickens, and before that, he spent numerous years in the South Carolina Correctional Facilities in Greenville, South Carolina. A little more about the department I learned. There's 14 full-time officers, as well as a few dispatchers. And I also asked about how the department's made up. Are there any special divisions? Because I know up in Hartford and many of the bigger police departments in more urban areas have many special units, such as Marine, to help in any water situations. They have obviously gang units, investigation units, white crime units, stuff like that. At Pickens, he said they have a road patrol division, which basically hands out speeding tickets and handles traffic. They have an investigation unit, like most police departments have, where detectives, where if there's an unsolved case or something, they look at the evidence, try to figure out who did it. And then they have what he described as a pretty unique division, which is a community-oriented police officer. There's one of them, and he's kind of a liaison between the police office and the community. And his job is to kind of show up at a lot of the community functions and kind of be the voice for the people in the police department. The crime are property crimes, such as burglary, larceny, some vandalism, and many times it takes a while for that even to get reported. The majority of the crime is less serious in nature. Like I said, burglary is probably the most serious crime they face. Although they did have one murder in the past 3 years, which he described as being the worst thing they had. They also get an occasional rape once in a while. But again, the majority is property crime and obviously traffic related. Just like almost any place, traffic tickets and violations. And the vehicle are probably going to be the most common offenses. But another thing he talked about was there's a good amount of drug-related arrests, mostly around prescription medications and marijuana. That's almost universal in most places. A lot of drug problems, especially in the inner cities. In the cities of Hartford, there's a lot of drug problems. Asked about if there's any organized crimes or gang activity, because I know up where I am, there's a few pretty well-established gangs that probably account for the majority of the crimes, as they're the ones with drugs, they're the ones who are robbing people, they're the ones who have most of the weapons illegally. Here said there's not really much gangs or any kind of organized crime. I know one of the main differences culturally between the Northeast and down here in the South is guns and gun law and gun control. It seems like South Carolina is probably one of the easiest states to obtain a gun legally, whereas in Connecticut it's probably one of the harder states, as there's a 7-day waiting period. You have to apply for it, and many people get denied, and it's a lot stricter. There's only a few gun shops, whereas here almost everywhere you see there's pawn shops that sell guns and gun stores. So I asked him the question about the many of the citizens' jurisdiction owns gun. He said yes, pretty much all of them. And he says he assumes that every place he goes, the person he's going to see, homeowner owns a gun, because that's just the culture in Pickens and the rural South. And then I followed up with a question about, do you think that these people with guns rely on themselves and their own guns for protection, or do they rely on the police more? And he still firmly believes that the police, if there's an issue, they'll call the police first before taking action in their own hands. And they only take action in their own hands if it's a serious emergency. So I mean, that's just like where I'm from too. Many of the times, if there is an issue, whether it be serious or not, the first thing someone does is call the police, and he still thinks that is true down here, even though many people do protect themselves with their own weapons. One of the main differences that I saw in the police departments, besides the fact of size and number of crimes, because that's pretty much population based, but in actual policing, was one thing that stuck out was the fact of voting for a sheriff and having kind of a political tie and almost a bureaucratic nature to how the police force is run and how the leader is chosen. in Connecticut and many other police departments that I'm familiar with, which up in the Northeast and New England, the chief of police, or as the sheriff down here, are normally the most elder police officers who have spent many years on the force and have a great knowledge of the area as well as policing. But overall, there are many similarities in how they police, how the policing goes. There's high risk areas, like in almost every city or town, where they do extra policing and they make sure that their presence is known. And I do know some people. One of my close friends' dad's in the Hartford Police Department, and some criminal justice major. I've obviously talked to him about some policing methods, and they both said the main tactic is deterrence. Try to kind of show a presence and stop the crime before it even happens, because it makes everyone's life easier. Obviously, protecting the people is one of the main priorities of any town or any city, whether it be in the South, the North, or anywhere. Protect the citizens of the town.